We tried to tell you. We tried to help you from hurting yourselves, Broncos fans. It turns out the preseason undefeated streak didn't mean as much as we thought it did. Dan, play that touching, somber, but slightly uplifting music. Ah, that's right. Let it out, Broncos country. We tried to tell you that it was coming, but we understand that it still hurts when something you love gets taken away from you, like being undefeated.
I can't hurt anymore. Hey. And honestly, a lot of you Broncos country need to develop a callus here. This is going to be a while. You know, let it hurt less.
Listen, Ryan.
Let it hurt less, Kyle. I'm just telling you.
They just became Nuggets fans, all right? They're not like you and I. They haven't seen this kind of pain.
I was born in the darkness.
Yeah, correct.
You adopted the darkness.
Yeah.
I don't know why
it's just what it is.
Yoda?
Yeah, I liked it, though. Yeah. I think that would have been a choice by Tom Hardy, and I would have liked it.
Yeah. They should remake that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Joker, by the way.
Yeah,
unrelated.
Something I wasn't excited about, and for as much as we predicted, I didn't predict that we would get two safeties and still lose the game. The Broncos lost opener 26-20 to Seattle. Late touchdown by Bo Nix was really
looked great running it in the end zone.
He
really did look great running it into the end zone. Yeah. Like that, I was there for that. I was watching it live, and man, as he gallivanted in, it looked wonderful. And the fact that I missed the whole first half, I was like, man, this is going great. I mean, it's not terrible right now, but yeah. Apparently it was. Well, upon rewatching, it was.
Yeah. It was a tough one. Let's just start with Bo Nix. I think this has been the polarizing thing. Talk about the kid gloves. It's the classic like Gordon Ramsay meme where he's doing the idiot sandwich with the one chef, and then that's like the kid version of Gordon Ramsay, and he's like, "You beautiful child, you tried." Like, and that's how his post game felt with Bo Nix compared to like Russell Wilson. Like Bo Nix did like 12 things in this game that were worse than anything Russell Wilson did last year as far as decision making. And Sean was like, well, I mean, we can't run the ball. I mean, what do you expect from the guy? And obviously there's connections there, but what was kind of, I know you watched the second half kind of live and then went back and caught things. What were your takeaways from the Bo Nix experience? We were obviously less optimistic than I think a lot of people had it in, but what did you kind of take away from it?
My bar was not very high, and I think I don't think he cleared it either. It was pretty bad. I mean, he wasn't showing any of the glimpses consistently that we saw in the preseason where it was like, oh, wow, he had like a really nice throw there, or he saw that read and he looked off the guy. Like there was no mobility really. He was outside of the touchdown run, honestly. I don't know. It wasn't encouraging, but I also was expecting him to sort of be overwhelmed by the situation and by the moment. So it looked like he was, and I wasn't that surprised.
Yeah, I think, one, you have probably the best defensive coordinator last season coming in now with Seattle in Mike McDonald. And I think that showed. And I think after the first few drives, it really looked like Seattle said, oh, you're never going to throw the ball downfield. And the other thing was like, we're not scared of any of your wide receivers running by us or doing any of that. And so they were just all over. And kind of the equivalent of like, hey, bring them in, boys. All right. Like when you were playing in kickball and PE in elementary school and some kid who's terrible at kicking, you're like, there's no need to be that far out in the outfield. Let's bring this bad boy in. We're not giving up a soft single here, all right? We got some real kickers coming up. We got to get an out here. That's what it felt like they did to Bo Nix. The other thing that I thought that I do agree with some of the Broncos fans, because I've seen a lot of them and a lot of talk about like, well, there's no separation, there's no this, there's no that. So I do agree with that, but also these were all the same people who were defending our talent and talking about how like, well, it's underrated, it's that. Well, so you can't have, both takes. We kind of were always of the opinion that this wide receiver room sucked and that it was wild to cut Tim Patrick because of it. Yeah. Especially if you're going to play this conservative style, like if you're not going to use any burners, then why would you not just have a big body, precise runner, one of the guys that he seemed to really like throwing to in the preseason. So I think the talent around him is really bad. Also, like you said, he was horrendous. I think you saw that last touchdown drive. Seattle kind of let off the gas and just kind of was like, all right, use clock. We're going to get out of here. And I don't think, to be clear, they were like trying to let them score or anything, but they weren't being as aggressive. They were kind of keeping it in front. And I don't think that they thought that he could score even against that. And you started to see once again what the preseason looked like, where it was like, oh, I'm comfortable. We've got cushion. We're throwing it out for, quick for these 8-10 yards. But earlier in the game, when those weren't there, he was panicked back there. He also just missed Sutton on 2 that could have been first downs. One, he just way overthrew him. And the other one, maybe Sutton could have come down, but it was certainly behind him. So I thought the accuracy wasn't great. And then for how we've been hearing, from Sean Payton and everyone around the Broncos leaking things, that we have, a combination of Goodwill Hunting and a beautiful mind back there in the pocket.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, it was your fault in this case, Bo. That pick in the red zone. Yeah. Sean Payton would have gone out on the field and murdered Russell Wilson live on TV if he would have done that. Yeah. That was egregious. He was getting blitzed. He was under pressure. He couldn't see it. And it's a throw that college quarterbacks always make when they're used to having better athletes in those. And they're like, hey, we're going to put it up, give my guy a chance. It's actually, there's no chance there. This safety is either going to murder our wide receiver or he's picking it. You are throwing outside the numbers. You're going to have to put air under it to get over this guy running at you. It's always getting picked. Yeah. Okay. So that's my number one rule for Bo Nix. If I was watching film with him, I'd say, hey, if you can't see the wide receiver and you're going to try to float one down the sideline, I'd like you to not do that ever again.
I was going to make fun of you for saying that you should be giving Bo Nix film advice, but that's pretty, I think that's pretty foolproof.
Yeah. And I'd just make him wear a bracelet that said, what would Will Levis not do? And then just do that. I'd be like, hey, dude, can you throw it to the other team to single-handedly cost your team the game? Yeah, don't do that. Will Levis. Woof. There was some really bad quarterback play across the board. The thing that I guess I wanted to transition into, so I agree. I guess I would say we were right. It was expected, but it was maybe a little bit worse for me than I thought. We weren't even picking up the 4-yard on time where you're like, hey, that was on time. It's not enough yardage, but whatever.
The running game looked terrible.
Yeah.
There were parts of the game outside of Bo Nix that also looked bad.
Yeah.
So it was not an encouraging start to the season, to be clear, or to be sure.
No. I in a moment of weakness in the second half, said to Dan, who was over there watching the game with me, I said, man, it's so much fun to watch Brian Greasy again. Because it was just that same feeling where you're like, I mean, technically, sure. Like you
We're
don't,
still
but like
kind of in the game.
But like you're throwing for like 4 yards and you're clearly terrified if someone's gonna come hit you. Like it wasn't good. So that part
It's the 10-point lead in a middle school girls basketball game.
yeah, insurmountable.
Insurmountable.
Yeah. But staying on the offense real quick. I did want to we talked about it last year. It came up again. The two teams that ran the lowest pre-snap motion was the Cleveland Browns, who just don't want to put anyone within arm's length reach of Deshaun Watson for their own safety. And they ran it only 12%, and we ran it only 21%. All the teams in the bottom 5 did not win and did not score a lot of points. All the teams in the top 5 of pre-snap motion did win and did score points. It feels like, obviously, the Saints got rid of the Sean Payton disciple. They have Clint Kubiak. They got to play one of the worst teams in football in Carolina. But obviously, it looked a lot better there. And they used a very high percentage of pre-snap motion and kind of doing a more modernized thing. It didn't feel like Sean Payton helped Bo Nix a lot by like doing things that aren't hard on a rookie quarterback, but just make defenses easier to diagnose, give them more things to think about. It felt like it was like, hey, we're either going to hammer this up the middle, we're going to pitch, or we're going to throw a slant. Those are the 3 things we're going to do. And one of the smartest defensive minds, fingers crossed he doesn't see it coming. Like, there was no, like, even we were watching and Thursday Night Football and watching the Bills and Dolphins use their speed and running around, and they're faking reverses. They're faking up the middle, and it's not even asking the quarterback to throw, but it's just keeping guys off balance and slowing the rush down a little bit. All that kind of stuff.
It's infuriating because of the lack of skill position talent. Like, you have to be giving those people advantages. And even if you're not fast, just moving is an advantage.
Yeah.
Being in motion is an advantage. So the fact that you're not doing it with inferior skill positions is even dumber than doing it or not doing it with somebody who's really good, who might get open one-on-one standing flat-footed. Like, Tyreek Hill doesn't need to be moving, but they do it anyways because it's a massive advantage. Yeah. So if you have somebody who sucks, I don't know why you're not giving them an advantage. So it's I don't trust Sean Payton. I don't think that he's doing a good job. I think that the locker room is weird. The vibe has never been good. Like, nobody's ever really come out and said, like, you know who's really building a strong culture is Sean Payton. Like, I haven't heard that from players. I haven't heard that really from media. Like, people believe in him as a coach, but I don't think they're coming out and saying, like, oh, this is like the bond on this team is incredible. Like, I don't think that's Sean Payton's vibe. So it's hard to stomach watching a rookie quarterback get put in a bad position. And that's what we said at the beginning of the year, is like, I don't know if this is worth actually having him go out there because the team is bad. So it like, part of this might be that the talent is so bad that Sean Payton feels like he can't run a creative offense because, one, they won't understand it, I guess, or like, but if that's the case, then
you can't be in the NFL, dude.
What are you doing?
Like, you can't suck and be stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you can either be really good and you can be dumb. That's all right. We'll draw it in the sand for you.
And
we'll
honestly,
we'll get crayons out on the field. That's fine. But
Bo
you
Nix
can't be Marvin Mims and
be,
need crayons.
It can't be Bo Nix's fault either, because he ran this type of offense at Oregon. It's not like he hasn't executed this type of pre-snap motion, pre-snap calls. Like, sure, he probably can't read the defense, but like, somebody
it's a
else can
cheat code
do
to
that.
help him,
Somebody else
too.
can do that. Like
It's, hey,
yeah.
that guy followed that guy
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the way over there.
No,
I predict they're not in zone if he bothered to do that. Now, obviously, defenses play games with that and
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
that, right? Like, but I'm just saying, like,
There's
it's such an advantage, and the reason teams stopped playing so much man is because the Chiefs were using so much motion and so much, like, slants, running guys off of people, that it was like, how the F do you guard Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill when they're doing this? And I don't see any of the things that would have tested, especially in a week one, where I think sometimes you can get big plays on like just overhyped up players, where you're like, oh, this guy's flying to the ball. Oh, we ran a reverse, or we ran a little misdirection, or we ran a little something. It just feels like Sean Payton has been sniffing Sean Payton's farts, and last year didn't humble Sean Payton in any way. He said, oh, Russell Wilson sucks. I've been successful all of this time. I've had all of this. Like, I don't know. You know, like it didn't feel to me like I thought maybe Sean Payton would be like a little bit more unleashed with Bo Nix because he clearly didn't believe in Russell Wilson. He clearly didn't do things, but like it looked pretty uncreative and pretty stupid. And if he does that this upcoming week, he is going to get absolutely jackhammered by this Pittsburgh defense, who effed up a Atlanta team that has actual skill position players
let's
who we would murder
transition
for.
to that game.
Before we do, I wanted to ask you defense, because that was a thing that I thought actually was a little bit better than I thought. The Seattle figured it out the second half a little bit, but to hold them in check for a half with those wide receivers, I was
Lockett's
kind
banged up.
Yeah, but still,
Smith and
Riley
Jigba,
Moss,
like
I thought he was better than I thought he was going to be, and obviously Surtain was
that's the
awesome,
nice part
but
about that is that you have Surtain, so like one of those wide receivers is neutralized. Like that's to our point in the preseason. Like the best way to beat this Broncos team is to have multiple threats, and like the Seahawks have multiple threats, and they're gonna figure it out. I don't think the defense is bad. Well, I think that they're going to get bad because the more tape that teams have on this, like there's not going to be a second and third version of this defense that we see during the year. And so I think, yeah, they looked okay. Surtain was unbelievable, which is a big reason why they were even in the game in the first place. So, I mean, even the balls that DK Metcalf caught on him, it was like, well, I don't know what else you're going to do.
And you got tackled.
And he's just like, oh, I'm right here, actually.
Yeah, I want to, I have a quick Surtain conspiracy theory for you. Not even a conspiracy theory, just like I want to give him credit potentially for it. Surtain is notoriously doesn't celebrate, doesn't, like he might do like a quick, like the seatbelt thing or something, but he's not, he's not Jalen Ramsey out there, right? Or like Talker.
Who absolutely got torched tonight by that running back for the Bills, by the way.
Yeah. So he's, but he is first play, they throw it his way, and it was a big third down. He knocks it away, and he gives him the Matumbo finger wag to Metcalf. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? I think Surtain is so smart that I think he's trying to get Metcalf thrown out of this game, because Metcalf has a history of when he gets mad and he'll get extracurricular with guys, and all of a sudden that Surtain is like, all right, then I can go guard in Jigba, and then they can't throw. Yeah, but then to your point, you have banged up Lockett, who made a huge catch, the catch of the game, but still not as big of a threat. So I wanted to run that by you because I do think Surtain is trying to not only play his position, but be kind of what you're talking about that you wish Peyton did for the offense, where he's like, all right, I have to make up for some real deficits out here. Yeah. How can I make such a big impact on the game that I can almost Jedi mind trick people into either being like, give me the ball over here. Come on, I'm not scared of him. Or be like, he's so effective. We can't throw over there ever and be like, well, you can because we're gonna play zone sometimes. Or whatever. You know, like it feels like he's trying to affect the game in a bigger way, which is cool.
I love the theory, and I fully subscribe to it. Even if I didn't believe it was true, I'd subscribe to something like that because I want it to be true. But the thing I will say about him is it reminds me of the Champ Bailey days, where like you just look at the side of the field that he's on, and you're like, well, I could not watch over there because the odds of them going over there are very slim. Like, you just don't want to throw at the guy, and that's really fun.
That's when I knew Geno was lost at that point in the game, because I was like, hey, if it's third down, I would never in my life throw it past it. Like, it would have to be it's better than nothing. But I thought Allen was really good in the middle. The thing that did concern me is as time wore on, that run defense reared its ugly head again. And that, to once again, I guess, kind of transition us into this one, that's a problem versus Pittsburgh, because you need Justin Fields to have to throw the ball here. And if you're getting gashed on the run, it is going to be a long-ass day for Bo Nix and the boys, plus
Justin Fields might have 80 yards in this game, rushing.
I was going to say, he might have, it'd be a good day throwing for him. Yeah. So that would be, I was like, oh, you really think Pickens is going to get loose for one, huh? No, 50 yards in one play and 30 the other 3 quarters.
Yeah, I'm not confident going into this one.
All right, let's talk about it. Home opener. We kind of thought it was going to be the Russell Wilson revenge game. Mike Tomlin looked at him and was like, "You're hurt now. No, you're hurt now. You suck. Actually, you're hurt now." And played Fields. Fields was fine versus Atlanta. I had that on a screen. I mean, it was really it was pretty apparent that Atlanta was not going to score in that game. And it just becomes so much easier to play call when you're like, hey, we can kick 6 field goals and we are going to blow this team out. And it felt like a blowout out there, despite never getting in the end zone. Now they come to Denver. This line has moved up quite a bit. It was Broncos -1 in the look-ahead line. Now it's Steelers -2.5. This is a very low over-under. I believe 36.5. I can double check, but I guess let's start on the I think let's start on the defensive side of the ball. How do you want the Broncos to attack this team? Because it feels like one of the few teams
drop 11
where we are not
just put everything in front of you and try to make him throw the ball.
Oh, see, I kind of feel the opposite. It feels like this is one of the ones where they are not you're not actually at a skill deficit here. This offensive line is banged up. All they're going to want to do is run this ball. And I would put 8 in the box, and I would say we're not rushing to sack Justin Fields. We're rushing to keep him in the pocket. We're keeping our gap contained. We are not letting long runs. And Surtain is on Pickens.
If I felt confident that we could potentially do that, which I think this team has tried to do that in the past, and it's failed. So my idea was just to let him get 3 yards. But just 3 yards.
Yeah, I just don't trust. That line looked bad after time, and there are going to be some early 3 and outs for our offense. So you can't let them stay out there. You need to get the ball back.
I just don't. I don't think that this is a good matchup for us. I think that this team is going to wear us down, and that defense, which we can get to the other side of the ball, that defense is fucking unbelievable. So they're going to be pretty stingy on the other end, and if they don't Like if we give them a turnover or two, that's game. Like you can't give them the ball. So
Yeah.
that would be my breakdown of how I think things are going to go.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic here. I think this Steelers team still has a terrible offensive line. They still have Pickens and nobody. Fryermuth is a pretty good tight end. And good Lord, can we please never put Alex Singleton in coverage? There were some milk check plays out there that Seattle was running with their running backs. But I think that Atlanta ran about as stupid of a game plan as you could have against what the Steelers are doing.
Sean to
come
up with something.
No.
Genius.
I don't mean like creativity wise. I just mean like they were like, well, we need to get Pitts out in the route, so we're never going to chip TJ Watt. It's like, well, it's a strategy. But fortunately for us, our tight ends suck, so we can keep them in a block. It's no problem. I think that you were onto something when it's the turnover battle, right? It's which one of these quarterbacks is going to throw a really stupid pick. And probably both of them will before it's all said and done. But which one is going to be in really bad field position? Like there's a difference between, taking points off the board like Knicks's first pick did, or, like throwing a pick six like Tua did tonight, where it puts points for the other team. I think that this Broncos team is now a little bit undervalued, and I think that the altitude and is still a factor early in the season. Even though the Broncos have been bad, they're still a very profitable team to bet on as an underdog at home in the first 4 weeks of the season. I think that Sean needs to throw more. Like, he loves to throw a screen in there, but he needs to throw more like misdirection, reverse, a little more creative stuff. I'm not expecting to see that, to be clear. But I absolutely think that the Broncos could win a very ugly, 12-9 game. To me, this game is more of a toss-up, just because I think it is. I think the Steelers' defense is undeniably the best unit out there. I think that Justin Fields and this offense are absolutely capable of losing this game by themselves.
For sure.
I think it's two bad teams, and I like them at home.
What's that cousin Sal bet? Doesn't he bet like the other team to win the first half and Steelers to win the game?
Yeah.
That bet is plus 750 to this weekend. That might be the play, honestly, because I do agree that like this offense, I think that the Steelers offense has the opportunity to start slow because they're going to have to run the ball. We know they're going to have to run the ball. So I could see the Broncos defense coming out tuned up, ready to go. Yeah. Slowly starts to wear. Bo Nix puts up 10 points in the first half and you're like, all right, well, it's 10-3, but I don't feel good right now. And then they come back.
If it's 10-3, I would take a knee every time down and punt the ball. And I would call Sean Payton an innovator and a genius on this podcast.
I am actually
There is no way Justin Fields can score a touchdown by himself.
That's, I think, wrong. I'm going to bet the Broncos to win the first half and the Steelers to win the game live on the podcast right now because
I disagree. I think, like I said, I think it's an ugly game, but I would take the Broncos here. I'm sticking with my preseason thing. I think that home field advantage matters, and I think that also Tomlin as a road favorite is actually not good. Yeah. He's a classic rah-rah guy. Like, if the Broncos had upset the Seahawks and were somehow favored in this game, oh, good
Lord, I think
Tomlin's
rah-rah here is that, like, we can win this division. Like, did you see the Ravens?
Yeah.
Like you don't. They didn't even think we were going to win 6 games, 7 games, whatever. Like he's getting in their ear. That's why he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. So
All I'm saying is
think
the
they're going to
Steelers
come up ready, but
have had some letdown games.
totally.
In the past.
And you're probably right that the value might be on the Broncos money line here. Like
Plus 130, folks.
If you were gonna bet it, I think that is probably the way to go. But like, I'm gonna take plus 750 with the double result there.
Yeah, no, I can't hate it. I hope to see, like I said,
could also hedge if I need
to. If you had, I guess I have my number one wish is like more misdirection. I'm not gonna get crazy and ask for pre-snap motion, but just some things that make it. Can potentially slow down TJ Watt from murdering our rookie quarterback in future of the franchise. That would be if you gave me one wish for this game, that would be mine. What would be your wish for the Broncos? It could be offense, defense, special teams. But something strategy-wise that week one, you were just sitting there like, what are we
doing here? I think I would like Bo Nix to try not throwing the ball. Just don't ever throw it. Only pump fakes, pull it down, go for a run. I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get up against Minka Fitzpatrick and the boys out there.
Well, in that pass rush is dangerous. Like,
no, you can't be trouble. It's got to come out.
Yeah, I guess this is actually my wish. I hope Bo Nix stays healthy.
Yeah.
Because they are mean up there. They're not going to come in and give you a little tap. They're going to hit you. So yeah, that would be my wish.
Yeah. What do you make of, by the way, obviously it came out that Asimi's the rookie running back is out for a while. But what do you make of the fact that Javonte really didn't get a lot of carries? McLaughlin was getting a lot, even after he fumbled. I think put it on the ground.
Peyton loves a split backfield. That's why everybody has hated playing. Like,
I'm just saying, I thought it would be a little bit more 70 Javonte wear on him.
I mean, and then Jaleel reportedly had an unbelievable camp. So
I didn't love what I saw.
No, but I honestly, I think this is my biggest frustration is like the talent identification is so bad. Yeah. It's the problem that the Rockies have had for years. They don't know when they have a good player, and they can't figure out how to use the players, the good players that they have in an effective way. It's infuriating to watch.
Yeah. Especially when you don't have a lot of them. You're just like, hey.
Well, yeah, we have 3 good guys, so maybe let's try to get, even if Mims is an idiot, can we run him on a double reverse or something? Like, the guy's fast as hell. Just point him in the right direction.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. No, it all makes sense to me. All right. So, official prediction. I'm going to go Broncos 15, Steelers 9.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
we are in week 7 last year form where you are just predicting Broncos victory in the ugliest way possible.
And when did they go on their run, baby?
Let's see. I will go Steelers 14, Broncos 10.
You were laughing at me for an ugly game. You predict the same point.
You said 15. How the 15? They have to get a safety, right? Like,
no. We can kick 5 field goals, baby.
Oh my
we don't even have to get in the end zone. Give them a little of their own medicine. But yeah, it's going to be hideous out there. I think we could get like a touchdown, but Will Lutz mixes the extra point. There's no way he's going 5 for 5 for field goals, by the way. We could be kicking him from the 1 foot line and he'd find a way to miss one. But
he was really good in like Madden 2010 though.
Dude, so good. So good. Okay. I think we wanted to get some just kind of quick week 1 tidbits in there.
I
kind of takeaways.
missed most of week 1, so I want to hear your top 3. Give me your top 3 takeaways.
Okay. First takeaway, the 49ers are fucking unreal. I bet against them on Monday night.
Oh no. I was here. Why didn't you text me?
I bet against them.
Why did you do that?
Because and the thing is, I was feeling even better. I got my bet in before McCaffrey was out.
Oh man.
So I'm sitting there and the McCaffrey news comes across and I'm like, I was just thinking, no Trent Williams in camp, and he had to get an IV. No Ayuk, and all the talent on the Jets. Saleh knows him, all of that. It didn't matter.
I think Saleh might be a bad coach.
It's not good. And it's even worse because I don't like.
They should have won that game. Like the fundamentals, I agree with your bet, but I think there's a stink on that Jets team.
Also.
And there's been a stink, but it's the refreshed optimism might be a little unwarranted at this point.
And can I run this theory by you? Brock Purdy, I think, is a really good regular season quarterback. Like, I think people got some stink on him because in the playoffs he didn't look good last year, right? Even on their way to the Super Bowl, he didn't look super efficient, super on top of it. But I think week to week NFL grind, I think Purdy's pretty good. And I think that was the part that I missed on that was they're not going to be able to score as much because Purdy's kind of been figured out and he's maybe going to have a come back down to earth sort of week or year. He did not. The second thing I'll say is that these teams are running some true dog shit offenses. It's the fewest touchdowns thrown in week 1 by an absolute shit ton. And I do not claim to be the X's and O's genius of the NFL, but it is the highest rate of teams playing too high. Too high, cover 2. We're not getting beat over the top. You're not getting explosives against us, which makes the Bo Nix first interception even worse because you can be pretty sure that a team is playing too high and the safety is going to be coming across. But it leaves so much space for these zones, and if you're just precise and can get the ball out, you should just be able to pick up 6-7 yards and put the ball down the field.
Baker Mayfield.
But they can't do it, and it feels like, I don't know if it's the lack of training camp, if it's just a worse quality product, but it feels like I specifically remember a Monday Night Football game in which the Broncos basically did what teams are doing and tried not to get beat over the top by the Raiders. And Gannon didn't have an incompletion. And Troy Brown and Jerry Rice just caught everything underneath. And they just carved us up with these long drives and just beat the hell out of us. And scored almost every time they touched the ball. And it doesn't feel like it feels like maybe the maybe the Chiefs can do that, and that's kind of it. A consistent, you just trust them to go down. The other thing,
Mahomes, I guess to say Mahomes is the first person who really started to see this type of thing.
He's had longer.
So he's had a lot of, and it's kind of crazy that teams have just now started to do it against the rest of the NFL. But I guess the thing I will say is it takes discipline, right? And what we just watched with Tua, hypothetically, that's a team that should be able to do that. That's what the whole thing is sort of built on. You just exactly where the guy's going to be. It's all timing, and if the zone is right, and if you can read it. But we watched a lot of that just go downhill for Tua tonight. So that timing, if it's bad, and I guess the last point I'll make is that with the new preseason, I think your point about it just being off. I mean, coaches are now saying like these first 4 weeks are basically preseason. So a lot of these mistakes are good to note, but I do wonder how much of it'll get cleaned up.
Yeah, it just feels like I understand in theory the idea that if you can play heavy and run the same thing out of the same look all the time, it can be more effective. I also just think that if you still just run the spread and say, we're not running the ball, because, we're talking during this Miami game, and there were some, very creative runs, sometimes where they'd, bust run, but there'd be so many times where it'd just be 1 yard or stuffed.
And it's up the middle. It's not, they're not having creativity on the runs like they're having in the pass game.
And it's just like, hey, like the check down dump off is usually good for 2 yards. So if you can't get that consistently, let's just go back to when Tom Brady was throwing the ball 50 times and they were spreading them out and saying, hey, dude, that's fine. You're going to bring those safeties down here, or we're going to find your milk check in there. We're going to get some linebacker on somebody. We're going to find little zones to sit in, and we are just going to get this ball out of there. Yeah. And it feels like that's a kind of strategy that isn't the zag that isn't happening. And I understand why, because obviously Shanahan's kind of the gold standard right now, and that's not what he does in the copycat league. But yeah,
Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it is unbelievably fun to watch when it's cool. But
when you have Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy,
but to be clear,
dishing and diming everybody, it's pretty cool.
To be clear, teams aren't playing too high versus them because their run scheme are too good.
Yeah.
You have to bring one down to the box so they can get more explosives with the run game.
That's why they're so good.
Yeah. So you're not them. So kind of what we were talking about with Broncos, right? Like you need to try to maximize what you can do to win. The other team that I'll say was surprising to me I was pretty surprised by how bad the Panthers looked. It's rookie head coach, it's all of that, but Bryce Young might not be an NFL quarterback. Like it just we might be at that stage this early. It was on a screen because we may have teased up the Panthers to 11 points. And
which is normally
taken a cash bath.
It's a cash bet normally in the NFL.
And it was the only part of our 3-team teaser that didn't
People don't lose by 10 very much.
No. So I think the Panthers might be headed for a really bad season. And the other thing that I'll just say is don't overreact to week 1. Like the Saints aren't actually good.
Hey. That's my fantasy quarterback you're talking about.
Well, he's not actually good either. I hate to break that to you as well. That's a double bad news for you, I suppose. And the Patriots aren't good. Like,
no, definitely not.
There's just some overreaction. I don't think the Steelers are good.
When the coach cries after they win the game, that's not a good sign for the rest of their season. When they're so overjoyed that they won a game.
My God. Watching you guys really suck it up every practice. I honestly didn't think we were going to complete a pass out there today. Yeah. My God. Jacoby, be honest, were your eyes closed in most of those? My Lord. I can't believe you guys. Absolutely just walked ass backwards into a victory. I'd like to thank that tight end from the Bengals. I don't know what that idiot was doing. Stretching the ball out after the first down, fumbling it.
So it's not.
Don't overreact to week 2 would be my last little tidbit. And Bryce Young's not an NFL quarterback. And NFL coaches, let's stop attacking this way.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said don't overreact and then said Bryce Young's not an NFL quarterback.
I think we saw some things last year.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not. I think that he definitely needs to go somewhere else. I actually
The
the
XFL,
Broncos should
potentially.
pick him up. I'd love for the Broncos to get him.
Yeah, we could watch someone else suck at our offense. Just Zach Wilson could come in. We
could trade him for Zach Wilson.
Maybe
It's like
Jamarcus
for
Russell is free.
Well, I don't know if he's free,
just
but
all
it might be a longest yard situation.
Yeah, whatever. Work release, baby. We're just gonna take all these terrible ass old number 1 picks. Yeah, that's the biggest bummer is that I don't have faith in Sean Payton to rehabilitate a quarterback right now. Right? Like I don't have faith for that at all in this offense and what it is. No, and if I were a quarterback, I wouldn't want to come here to be rehabilitated because it's not an offense that anyone else runs. No. So it's not like you're putting things on tape that are going to be like, oh, well, we want that guy. Yeah. It's terrible. All right. Let's get to our picks here, Ryan. Dan is going to start keeping track now. Week 1 was clearly a warm-up. Right out the gates, Ryan. I'm taking the Broncos plus 2.5. I'll take that. Minus 110 there. Like I said, I just think this is an overreaction to the Steelers. I think the Falcons did not respect TJ Watt and the defense enough. And I promise we're gonna provide help. And you know who I hope comes in to provide the help? Crumb. You can only fight athleticism with athleticism out there. And they said they've never seen someone move like him. Even though he's not very good at blocking forward, they said his movement is really cool. So I'm glad he's on the team. And we can bring him in as tight end because we're not throwing to him anyway. So we can just go heavy on the line. But yeah, this is more of a fade the Steelers than a long-term, this is a turning point in the season for the Broncos sort of bet. But yeah, I think this is good value. What's your first one here, Ryan?
I'll stay with the same game. I'll take my Broncos first half Steelers money line plus 750.
Perfect. And for the listeners at home, what we do is we put 1 unit on each game. So if Ryan wins, obviously, say our unit is $10. Ryan now.
Our unit is $20,000.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with the wild success of
the pod,
it's raining over here. But yeah, Ryan obviously can lose, and does typically lose more bets, but makes more money. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like he takes a little longer on
a lower
stuff.
Percentage.
Yeah,
but
so if at the end of the season when Dan gives our percentages and gives Ryan at 38, but he's up $10,000 and you're wondering how that happened, that's gambling, baby.
That's value, baby.
Yeah, exactly. My next one, I'm going to stay super ugly. I'm taking the Packers plus 3 at home. I watched because I had the Texans in the Texans Seahawks in a money line parlay. I watched all of that Indiana game or Colts game. The Colts lost their best corner in that game. They have one of the worst secondaries in the league already. Anthony Richardson only completed 9 passes. It just happened that 2 of them were some of the most impressive passes ever thrown in the NFL. I don't think he's super good. I don't think the Colts are super good. And this line has moved 8-9 points based off the Jordan Love news. I don't trust that. I think LaFleur is a better coach. I think Green Bay still has tons of weapons. It's still a team that's built for right now where the Colts are not. And so I just think this is value here. And even though everyone is piling in on this, so this might be one where you can wait and get it to 3.5. And that way, a field goal loss, you win instead of push. But I think that this team is pretty good. And I was actually, weirdly, I don't take too much away from the Packers defense and that Eagles team that has way better weapons here, and that field was terrible. And so there were so many big plays that happened in that game because I think kind of a field conditions and what that was. So, give me the Packers.
I like the pick. I've got no notes. I'm not gonna. I might tell you in real life, but I'm not gonna tell you on the pod. But yeah, I think there's value there. I'm gonna do a little parlay for my second pick. As we know, the Saints are at the Cowboys this weekend. And Derek Carr is their quarterback, who you referenced earlier.
I did.
And I'm going to take him to throw an interception.
Man, your fantasy quarterback. Right.
Well, he's going to have 4 touchdowns. So it'll be fine on my fantasy team.
He'll balance out.
And I'm going to parlay that with Bo Nix to throw an interception, which is minus 125. And this is a plus 208 parlay.
Gosh. I mean, hopefully, for the sake of your parlay, the Broncos don't take your advice and just never have Nix throw. But otherwise, I do agree that they are going to he'll get fooled one of these times out there.
He's a rookie. Like, I'm not even saying that to take a crap on Bo Nix. Like, throwing 1 interception at minus 120, I was shocked to see those odds. That is Vegas telling you that they don't think he's going to throw the ball. Because it should be minus 140.
Right. No, and low scoring, ugly game. But yeah, it's not good. But I like the pick there. My last one, I'm going to parlay. This one, I love it. I love it so much. Give me the Texans at home versus the rookie. Caleb Williams, who is honestly thanking his lucky stars that Will Levis did just about the funniest thing possible of throwing the pick and then in the background falling to his knees just like a medieval battlefield knight, who's seen his village burned.
I don't know if you follow art, but make it sports.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they probably did something with that. That was awesome.
It's So, Caleb Williams was terrible. The Texans were a different team at home last year. I thought they actually looked pretty good running the ball with Mixon against the Colts, and I just trust Stroud here. And I think if you can get up early on this Bears team, I think Caleb Williams is going to throw you one. That they're favored by 6.5, but I'm just going to take money line, and then I'm just going to take the Seahawks money line. They're at New England, so a little bit of travel there. However, New England coming off an emotional one in which, as you mentioned, Jared Mayo wept. And that's because he realized he might have to coach this team for more than one season. He's like, oh my God, I thought I was going to get fired and only have to see you ugly, ugly, terrible players for one season. I think Seattle started slow, but it felt like Seattle was intentionally trying to lose for the first half of the game and then turned it on and was fine. I think that, they are going to do some heinous things to this line for New England that is actually really, really bad. Once again, I don't have to mess with the 3.5 to worry about a field goal or anything. I'm just taking money line, and I'm getting plus money there. I'm getting plus 120. So
plus 112.
Plus 112, sorry.
I just put it into the old calculator because I knew you were going to...
I knew there was a 2. I had done it before the pod.
You're taking 8 cents there.
Yep. Hey, you're not wrong. Well, I mean, with our $20,000 bets, it adds up for sure.
I'm saying 8 cents because that's how the rich people do it. They're talking about thousands like it's cents.
Yeah. So that's my last one there. What do you think? I know it's a little chalky, but I feel like I'm kind of sticking to the same principles of don't overreact to week 1, and I think that New England team is fraudulent and still one of the worst teams in the NFL.
New England, I 100% agree.
And Chicago, rookie on the road.
Chicago, I'm a little bit more worried about just because I think sometimes, especially with that.
Also, Roma Dunzier is questionable.
And
it's trending towards not playing.
It's a little bit. I do believe in Caleb Williams, so I could see him winning one of these games. I do agree that it's not likely to be the Texans, but it makes me a little bit nervous. But I agree. I mean, I'm that. None of that is to say that I wouldn't make the bet. It's just for that value.
It's funny.
I'm more of a plus 750 man myself. So.
That's fair enough. It's fair enough.
I'm just gonna do a straight bet on my last one. I'm just going to take the under in this Chargers-Panthers game. It's 39. It's minus 110 at 39. I don't really think that this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Nothing that we saw from the Panthers or the Chargers last week told me that they are interested in scoring a lot of points. So I think it would be an anomaly to see this game go over. And it would honestly have to be turnovers. So I'm just going to sort of bet against that and hope that they take care of the ball.
I like that. I would also say typically when you see one of the lower numbers like this,
they can't make it low enough.
Correct. Vegas absolutely knows that people are going to look at this and go, but wait, if both these teams
Justin Herbert
20-17 were over here, there's some... when you start doing the math in your head and you're like, but most NFL games, most do. Because most teams don't have a team the Chargers, we had that on one of the screens, and they were just running. They could not score on their own for anything. And that's not a great Raiders defense by any stretch of the imagination. So, I like this pick. Also, really slow pace of play from the Chargers too. So it's not just that they run, they also use the clock the whole time too. So that's always something good to look at when you're betting these is what's the pace of play. Because even a running team, if they get up and down,
is good. He's not an explosive passer.
No. Good for him is better for you.
Yeah.
It means he's not throwing pick six.
Dink and dunk. And It's the version of the Panthers that we want to see is him just making these 8-yard throws and having
little
long
4-yard
drives.
Scramble.
Yeah, even
getting out of negative plays. 100%. All right. Well,
we got 6 winners there, I feel.
At least 3. No.
Well, I guess we can actually have 6 winners because we're against each other on one of those.
Well, no, we could still.
No, because you took Broncos money line.
No, I didn't take the money line. I took them plus 2.5. So a 1-point win.
Yeah.
With the Broncos lead at halftime,
I could totally see that happening. Just a field goal. I hope for Dan's sake he's going to be at the game. I hope they don't lose on the last second field goal, but I do kind of hope they do.
It's a whole thing. All right.
We're going to have to put Dan on suicide watch.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly if he's out there. All right, then. Thank you for listening. We hope that Sean was listening and that he will not run the same 3 plays because TJ's seen them now, Sean. Let's put a little something else on tape.
Condoleezza, if you're listening, hi.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Lucifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.